desperate to be relevant, that you can't kill him. But Jalen Brunson's a nice player, and I know he played great against Utah, and I know he averaged 60, but it's still Doncic's team. I mean, he's going to make them that much better. They're going to move heaven and earth and give him $110 million, bring the father in and everything else to go out there and to make Brunson their, the sort of the poster boy of the franchise. I mean, I know they probably feel they have to do it. They charge $1 million for those seats, and it's 19,000 of them they got to fill every day, and it's New York City and it's Broadway. Need to be, talked about. But, I mean, do we think Brunson is a guy that is going to bring them to a second-round playoff series? He's not. So I understand it. Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, he's not like, if he was a transitional, big-time alpha dog player who could be a big piece to a championship, you can see it. He's not that.
So the Knicks right now, they have 11 first-round picks in the next 7 years, 8 of which they can trade. So they have 8 tradable first-round picks, and they now have $30 million in salary cap space. The Dallas Mavericks kind of decided, from what I've been told about 2 days ago, that they were not going to be able to pay Brunson. And they are willing to do a sign and trade with the Knicks to help Brunson get to New York. Mm-hmm. The reason that the Knicks don't need it now. They've cleared the space. But the reason that's interesting is that when I was talking to league executives last night, they wonder, do the Knicks have something else up their sleeve? Because they could still get Brunson in a sign and trade and still have maneuverability, and they have these 8 picks they can trade. Okay. Is there another player that they're looking at? So I know that they have some interest in DeJounte Murray with the San Antonio Spurs, who teams are calling about, and maybe the Spurs are. DeJounte Murray was an all-star last year. He's still not going to be somebody who walks down the street in New York people are going to recognize, at least not right now. But that would be interesting if they could. Are they after them both? The other thing is, could they do the Brunson deal and then keep those picks in the holster for the moment when a star player says, all right, I got to get out of my situation? Because the one thing the Knicks have done, they've positioned themselves to be able to go after a star because their books are relatively clean. Okay. And they've got all these picks. But no star players in the last couple of years have said, I want out of a certain situation. We haven't had that really take place. And so the Knicks are kind of just sitting there with this bounty. Do they hold it, or do they try to do something in the short term? So the thing that you worry about the Knicks is, so this is going to be a $100 million deal for Brunson. They've got Julius Randle on a $100 million deal. Very nice players, neither of them, as you say, an alpha dog. Yep. They have Evan Fournier on a $70 million deal. Nice player, maybe not even a beta dog, right? Maybe
Correct.
He's
erratic.
Maybe he's a Charlie dog.
He's great. Next day, he's not so
right.
good.
Okay. R.J. Barrett is eligible for a contract extension of in excess of $100 million this summer. Are you giving him that?
Oh, they're giving it to him.
Okay, so now we got $400 million potentially on 4 guys who individually, I like them all. I mean, Fournier set records for the Knicks for 3-pointers last year. That's a desirable player. And $70 million is a lot, but it's not like fall on the floor awful. But now they got $400 million tied up in 4 guys. Their books aren't going to be as clean. And are those players good enough that if a star comes calling and says, I want to be a Knick, that you could trade? So that's really where the wager is that can they be in position when a star player raises his hand? But I'm going to tell you, there's people thought maybe Karl Anthony Towns would someday say, I want to go back home, I want to go to New York. Karl Anthony Towns is about ready to sign a supermax extension. Devin Booker is about to sign a supermax extension. These guys are not coming to the market, and that's what's causing problems.
But do all 4 make an alpha dog?
Alpha puppy.
Alpha puppy.
I mean,
no, seriously though.
It makes 43 wins.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But to Chris's point and to Brian's point, if you're going to be a Jalen Brunson, are they expecting him to be an alpha dog?
Yeah.
Because they don't have it right now.
They can't. There's no way they do.
I know there's no way they can't. But these are the New York Knicks, Wendy, that we're talking about, that they have higher expectations for people. When they signed Evan Fournier last year, they made it seem like he was the second coming of Larry Bird. From that standpoint, I'm thinking, well, I've seen Larry Bird. He's no Larry Bird. Fournier's a nice shooter, but he's a 20-20 guy. He can score 20, give up 20 on any given notice. More than ever before, the Knicks are always going to be a franchise at the crossroads because they overinflate the expectations of players that aren't superstar players. Yeah. To your point, Mad Dog, he's a nice player, Jalen Brunson. Is he a difference maker? No. Can he be a difference maker next to Luka Doncic? Sure.
He'd help. Yes.
There's no doubt. That's why Dallas said, you're asking for too much money. We're not going to do that when we got Christian, when we got Luka Doncic. We can find a Jalen Brunson not at $25 million per year when it comes to a contract. The Knicks are basically telling everybody, this is our big free agent signing because they know, Wendy, they can't get anybody else.
Maybe there's something else. And I wish I could say, oh, yes, I know it's coming. But there might be something else that they're doing.
And the Knick issue is with getting free. First off, nobody wants to play in New York City because
Apparently
the fans and the media are going to go crazy.
Yeah.
Number two, the weather's lousy. And that's a factor. They don't want to play. And number three, the training camp is 35 miles away. And that's a 2-hour drive in traffic on the Hutchinson River Parkway. I just did it this morning. It's 2 hours. So nobody wants to go have their training camp and purchase and then play the games at Madison Square Garden.
That's a good point.
It's a major. And you know, there's a reason why Durant and Irving and LeBron and Kyrie and Kawhi didn't come here. The Knicks are doing. You know what the Knicks are doing? They're doing their damnedest to. You know, he's never been great in postseason scenarios anyway, where he's the same. You know, he's never been great. I've always thought he's a little overrated. Hey, wait, Van Gundy tells me he's better than Jerry West. Jeff, he's not better than Jerry West. I'm sorry. Don't go. I don't care what he does.
I love when you start talking about guys from the 60s and 70s.
This is the first chance out. There you go. You haven't heard me do this yet, have you?
Oh, yeah, I have. I can't wait for chapter 2. I want to hear this.
It's coming.
It's coming. The show is young.
You know, I kind of feel the same way with Harden I do with Kyrie. If there's ever an off season where he's not going to go to Vegas and he's going to realize, you know what, I'm going to work on my game 6-7 hours a day, get myself in primo shape, and really play with Embiid 70 games, this is the year. He played awful, except for the one game. He played awful against the Heat in the postseason last year. He was terrible in the last 2 games, got booed out of the arena, although I was in Ireland, I didn't hear it, but I listened to you. They told me they booed him out of the arena. So as a result of that, you would think that light a little fire under him. I know he's a little different. You know him better than me. I would think this year he'd give you a pretty good effort, so I'll say the ceiling for the Sixers is a little higher than normal.
Yeah.
In the next couple of days, we could have a changing of the way James Harden is viewed in Philadelphia.
Okay.
The Sixers are operating right now like they're about to have some salary flexibility. And it looks like they're going to try to sign P.J. Tucker. The only way they can do that is if they trade a player, which I don't see, or if James Harden is ready to take a pay cut off of this $47 million right now. Now, it doesn't have to happen this way, but James Harden could be on the verge of opting out of his contract and not only not taking a max, but lowering his salary this year to open up space to add a player. And so this is a guy who demanded out of Houston, demanded out of Brooklyn. His first order of business when he got to Philadelphia was to say, I know you want me to pick up this option so that we know that there's no drama next summer, but I'm actually not going to pick it up. I know that I said I was going to pick it up, but I'm not going to pick it up. Imagine your first order of business with a team that's just stuck their neck out to trade for you is to kind of go back on the word that you already made. Having said all that, he might be about to really help them build this team.
Fair.
So let's see what he does with this option today. Woj is right. There's no concern that he's not going to be a Sixer. And I don't think he's signing for a max. But he could really, and remember, he played with P.J. Tucker in Houston when Daryl Morey was there.
So he knows him.
And
likes him.
You mentioned that series. 2 years ago, Milwaukee with P.J. Tucker plays Miami. They lose. Miami loses. They go, boy, we'd really like to have that P.J. Tucker guy. Last year, Philly plays Miami with P.J. Tucker. And even after the last game, Embiid was like, boy, P.J. Tucker was really good. And now they're trying to bring him in. And Harden could be facilitating that. So obviously what really matters is what he does on the court, with the condition he's in. But James Harden could be shifting a little bit in his priorities and his team, his willingness to help the team in this next 48 hours.
Okay. I love what you guys have said. Here's the problem what you had to say. Joel Embiid told us exactly what he thought of James Harden after they lost in the playoff series. That James Harden is not there anymore. Whatever James Harden you're going to get, is it going to be good enough to be a team to contend in the Eastern Conference? Joel Embiid already laid that out by telling everybody, we can't allow him to be the Robin on this basketball team. If it has to be Tyrese Maxey, they're hoping Tobias Harris. We thought somebody didn't play well in the playoff series. That guy, Tobias Harris, getting a lot of money. You can't just be part of the Justice League on the outside looking in. You got to go help people take down the villain. And he didn't do that for the Philadelphia 76ers. So if they're relying on James Harden to be the Robin to the Batman that is Joel Embiid says, I can't trust that Robin. When Joel Embiid speaks, I'm just like the old E.F. Hutton commercials. I'm going to listen. I'm going to pay attention to him. So if he's telling us that already, I know they wait for a full training camp. You're right, Wendy. You're right, Chris. You got to see what he's going to look like. What kind of shape is he going to be in? Is he going to commit? But even if he does, Joel Embiid has basically told everybody, I don't know if we can rely on that guy to make us a championship team. And if that's how he felt and he still feels that way, I think they're sealing the Eastern Conference semifinals. They'll beat somebody in the first round. They'll be a top 4, top 5 seed, maybe a top 3 seed. But once they get past the second round, you're going to run in maybe a Brooklyn, maybe Milwaukee, maybe Miami, or maybe a Boston. I'll trust those 4 teams because, like you said, Chris, in the playoffs, as great as James Harden has been in the playoffs, he's less than wonderful. He allowed a Houston Rockets team in a Game 6 where Steph Curry went 0 for the first half, and they lost that game at home. And that has continued in his playoff career. That's a guy I'm not going to trust because Joel Embiid, like E.F. Hutton, I'm paying attention, told everybody that's not the guy we're getting, and that's not the guy that's going to help us win.
Well, hopefully Embiid did that as a little motivating scenario.
I hope so.
If I was James Harden, and I'm as good as I'm supposed to be, and I got the center of my team saying that, I'm going to pay attention.
You should.
And I'm going to say, no, I'll prove him wrong. And so maybe Embiid's trying to play a little coach thing. I don't know if that's the case.
That's fair.
But if he does that, if Harden see, it's fascinating. If Harden and Irving do what they should do and realize they embarrassed their franchises last year, they put their stars in harm's way, Durant and Embiid, and take this summer to stay out of the news, get themselves in shape, and make a commitment to basketball, both teams could be very, very good.
No doubt.
It's a wonderful story.
It's probably not going to happen.
It's a great little fantasy.
It's a wonderful life, like the movie. We'll see.
It's a wonderful life. Well, James Harden and Russell Westbrook are both looking to bounce back after having down seasons by their standards, and they both averaged their lowest points since their years as Thunder teammates, with Westbrook failing to reach 20 points per game. Harden was better in each major category besides field goal percentage. Would you rather have Russ or Harden on your team? Wendy, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I'm seeing